Today is a special day. It's the birthday of our channel, the day we first launched our humble platform to share history with the world. And what better way to celebrate than by bringing you 2 brand new episodes? So let's dive right in. Today, the Allied invasion of Normandy. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces from Great Britain, Canada, the United States, and many other nations began one of the largest military operations in history, an invasion of Nazi-occupied France that aimed to liberate it from German control. But why was this day so important? What happened on D-Day? Why does it continue to resonate around the world today? Join us as we explore the events that unfolded on June 6, 1944. The significance of D-Day for World War II and its lasting impact on our world. The lead-up to D-Day. For over 2 years, Nazi Germany had been at the height of their power, controlling much of Europe after they invaded Poland on September 1, 1939. By 1943, only Great Britain and a few small nations remained undaunted. However, even Great Britain was suffering. During the Battle of Britain in 1940, the Royal Air Force fought valiantly against the Luftwaffe, but barely managed to win. The country was being bombed relentlessly in the Blitz. Food and resources were becoming scarce. The war was taking its toll. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, knew he needed a victory to boost morale, and the army desperately needed a new front to fight on. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, Adolf Hitler was preparing his defenses. He was expecting an attack, just not from this direction. Since 1940, Hitler had built up extensive defensive fortifications along the French coast. These included 3 lines of defense, each designed to slow down the enemy. As we now know, these would become known as the Atlantic Wall, though at the time they were more of a psychological deterrent than a physical barrier. So how did the Allies come to invade here? Well, it all comes back to that. While Britain and France were still resisting, the Germans had occupied and annexed much of France. Paris was occupied and the country was being run from Berlin. The Germans had turned northern France into a fortress, and it seemed impenetrable. With armies stretched thin, it didn't seem possible that the Allies could mount a large enough force for a counteroffensive. Make matters worse, most of the Allied navies were stationed elsewhere in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, after the Axis powers had taken control of the Atlantic. This left the Allies with only 2 options. Either they would need to build up a massive naval force to bombard the beaches and break through the Atlantic Wall, or they would need to find a place where the wall was weakest. After studying maps and reports, General Dwight Eisenhower, commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force, decided to launch the invasion in the thinly defended Normandy region. The plan called for American and Canadian troops to land on the eastern section of the beaches, codenamed Utah and Omaha, while British and others landed west on the less defended beaches of Sword, Juno, and Gold. After securing a foothold, the Allies would push inland and establish a supply line to the beaches, then open a second front in Western Europe. It was bold, ambitious, and carried great risk. If it failed, it would not only be a blow to morale, but it would also cost thousands of lives for nothing. D-Day unfolds. As dawn broke on June 6, 1944, Allied soldiers prepared for what would be a long and bloody day. Ships patrolled the waters, their lights dimmed to prevent detection by German lookouts. The men huddled together, trying to calm their nerves. On the beaches, the air was thick with anticipation. Soon the order to land came, and with a mighty roar, Allied troops took to the beaches. At first, things went according to plan. Allied soldiers moved quickly, surprising the Germans who were caught off guard. Within hours, Utah Beach was secured. Omaha Beach was proving trickier, but by late morning, the Allies had established a beachhead and were beginning to push inland. But as the day wore on, it became clear that not everything was going as smoothly as hoped. For example, there was confusion over who was landing where. British troops on Juno Beach were supposed to land west of the Canadian forces. But due to a miscommunication, they found themselves fighting alongside them. And on the easternmost point of Sword Beach, only 250 British commandos and a few hundred Polish soldiers were able to hold off wave after wave of German tanks and infantry, until relieved by the rest of the British force later in the day. There was also heavy fighting as the Canadians struggled to take the high ground at Bernier-sur-Mer, which was heavily defended by German machine gunners. At Point du Hoc, American troops faced fierce resistance as they climbed the cliffs overlooking Omaha Beach. Despite heavy casualties, they managed to secure the position, cutting off German artillery fire on the beach below. Meanwhile, German reinforcements arrived and launched counterattacks. By nightfall, the Allies had secured their positions along the coastline, but it was a hard-won victory. Thousands had been killed or wounded. In total, on June 6, 1944, Allied forces suffered approximately 10,000 casualties, including nearly 2,500 dead. The Germans suffered no less. Although Hitler had been proven wrong about a quick collapse of the Western Front, the Allied invasion had succeeded in establishing a beachhead in Western Europe. The door to France was now open, and soon hundreds of thousands of soldiers would pour through. The aftermath of D-Day. In the days following D-Day, the Allies worked tirelessly to reinforce their positions, bringing in supplies and reinforcements. They faced fierce German resistance, but slowly they began to push inland. By the end of July, they had advanced some 60 miles. Over the next year, the Allies would fight their way across France, liberating the country from German occupation. On August 25, 1944, Paris was liberated, and by May 1945, the war in Europe was over. The liberation of France was a major turning point in World War II. It marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. But it was also a hard-fought victory. The Allies had paid a heavy price for their success. D-Day is remembered as one of the greatest military operations in history. It was a testament to the courage and determination of the Allied troops who landed on the beaches of Normandy and fought their way to victory. It is a day that should never be forgotten. And now for No. 8. The Holocaust. Genocide in the shadows of war. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, a global war that engulfed the entire planet and resulted in the deaths of over 70 million people. But amidst the chaos and destruction, there was a hidden horror. A genocide that was carried out in the shadows of war, an event so horrific that it has left an indelible mark on our world.
Your world.
The Holocaust was the systematic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime and its collaborators. It was a dark chapter in human history, and one that we must never forget. The road to genocide. In the 1930s, Nazi Germany began to isolate and demonize Jewish people, blaming them for Germany's economic problems and portraying them as a threat to the nation. This culminated in 1941 with the invasion of Poland, during which German troops began rounding up and murdering Jews across the country. The following year, as Germany occupied more European countries, the persecution of Jews intensified. Jews were forced into ghettos, their possessions confiscated, their families torn apart, and their lives controlled by the Nazi regime. The machinery of death. As the war progressed, the Nazis developed a more systematic approach to killing Jews. They set up concentration camps where Jews were forced to work until they were too weak to continue. Then they were sent to gas chambers where they were murdered. Mobile killing units followed the German army, executing Jews in mass shootings. By the end of the war, 6 million Jews had been murdered, along with millions of other victims of the Nazi regime, including Roma, gay people, people with disabilities, communists, and political prisoners. The legacy of the Holocaust. The Holocaust was a tragedy of unimaginable proportions. It was a crime against humanity that should never have happened. But it did. And we must remember the victims and learn from the perpetrators. The Holocaust serves as a reminder of the dangers of intolerance, racism, and unchecked power. It is a warning to us all to stand up against hate and bigotry wherever we see it. Today, we remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust, as well as the millions of other victims of the Nazi regime. We honor the memory of those who were lost and pay tribute to the survivors who carry the burden of their experiences with them for the rest of their lives. Let us also remember the lessons of the Holocaust and strive to create a world where such horrors never repeat themselves. We hope you enjoyed today's episodes. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And be sure to check out our website to learn more about our mission to bring history to life. From all of us here, happy birthday to our channel, and here's to many more years of bringing history to life.